Welcome to lesson 1, everybody. Are you excited? All right. This is lesson 1. What do you need? You don't really need anything. You can just do all of these lessons with your voice, your body. I'm going to be using a cajon right down here. You can't see it, but it's right here to just play a beat. And then I'm also going to have a metronome. You don't need a metronome right now. We'll get to that a little bit later. But you will need one or want to have something similar to practice. And then if you want, I'm going to be showing you how to write a few things that relate to music and notation. But really, you don't have to. This is not about how to read and write music course. But I do want to show you how music is written. And I think it'll help you understand a few concepts better. So that's why I'm doing it. It's not so you can learn how to read and write music. But between you and me, you might pick up a few tips that are useful, all right? So if you decide to keep the music reading track going, that's up to you, but you don't need to do that for successfully completing the material here. All right, so in this course, in the lesson 1, we're going to look at pulse, beat, rhythm, and then basically tempo. We want to make sure we understand what those things are and what they sound like. So I will use this metronome in a minute. But what is rhythm? All right, let's start there. Rhythm has been described as the organizer and energizer of music. All right, the organizer. I think of rhythm like graph paper, right? It's like the graph paper of music. It allows us to measure things like time, how much time is passing. It allows us to group sets and cycle things and repeat things. And because if you're going to repeat something, it has to happen in a certain amount of time, right? So even if rhythm isn't explicit, it's always implied and it's always relevant. And then rhythm also, some people say it provides what we perceive of as forward motion, right? We often think of rhythm in terms of like a walking rhythm or jumping or running, doing things that we do in life that have kind of this energetic quality to them. So even though we know, when you hear a pulse, it doesn't mean you're going anywhere, but it feels like, it feels like you are, right? That's why we have marches. That's why we have music for marching, because it works and it gives us that sense of forward motion. So rhythm is, on a more technical side, rhythm is, we could think of it as bursts of energy, right? Music is vibrations that are propagated through the air that we experience as sound when it hits our ears, and then it gets translated into chemical and then electrical impulses, goes into our brain, and we say, hey, there's a burst, right? A sound. And when we have sudden sounds that happen in a sequence and they're equally, let's just say equally, they don't have to be always equally spaced, but when they are equally spaced in time, we perceive that as a rhythm, right? So we call that a pulse. And for our purposes, we're going to call a steady occurrence, a series of any abrupt sounds, or let's call them notes. We're going to call that the pulse, right? Now, we could use the word beat, the beat, right? However, I do want to just point out, and I'm not taking sides here, I'm just pointing out that some people will call a rhythm pattern a beat, right? Like, oh, that was a cool beat you were playing. What is that beat? Or do you make beats, right? And oh, this drum machine has a bunch of beats. And what people are talking about when they use the word beat in that context is what we could also call a rhythm pattern, right? Or a groove. So this would be our pulse, or the steady beat, as it's often called in music education. But when we play a pattern, we could call that a beat or a rhythm pattern, all right, or a pattern or a groove. So there's some of these words are used a little bit interchangeably, but for our purposes, we're going to call the steady beat, the pulse, or the steady beat, And then we've got this idea of tempo. So let's get out the metronome, and I'm going to introduce you guys to this view, which is an overhead view. I'm going to show you. I know it's not, you can't see it too well, but this is a metronome. I'm going to turn this on, and right now I've got it set to 100, and let's just listen to see what that sounds like. All right, so bing, ba, 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 bing, ba. And you'll notice on this metronome, we've got two lights, and we got a left side and a right side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're seeing a different light change. We're seeing a pulse on the left for the first beat, and the first pulse, and then we're seeing 2, 3, 4 on the right. That'll come into play in a little bit. Right now, all we want to do is listen, and this metronome has a little stand, so I'm going to stick it right here. And this is what 100 beats per minute sounds like, right? And we call that BPM, beats per minute, and you might also see a metronome marking as MM, and yeah, you could think of MM as metronome marking, but it also could stand for Menzel's metronome, when Menzel, I guess, is the person who invented the metronome. So either one, MM equals 100, or quarter note equals 100. We'll explain that a little bit later. All right, but all we have to do right now is feel this and get a sense for how fast does 100 beats feel? You know, how fast does this feel? Does it, if you were walking this fast, and you could pretend or visualize or just step in place, how fast does that feel? And the reason I'm asking you that is I want to have you start tuning in to the feeling and the sensation of different tempi. Is actually a little pretentious, but tempo and then multiple are tempi or tempi. Tempi. All right. We could say tempos, but it's a little casual. The point is, how does that feel? So for me, if I was marching or walking, click, 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 that's like a brisk walking tempo. So walking tempo, and this is just to note, walking tempo maybe 85 to like 110, and then we get up into something kind of faster. So we'll look at tempos a little bit more, or tempi, a little bit more later, or tempi, or temporary tempos, a little bit later. But for now, we just want to note how fast does something feel, and make a mental note of that time, or that metronome marking. All right, so that was 100. We'll do others later. What we call rhythm in music is, we often refer to it as time, right? How's your time? Does this person have good time? What we're saying, or what we're asking when we use the word time in that context, is we're asking, do they have a good sense of rhythm? Can they keep a steady beat, for example? Can they join in and match somebody, like another musician, playing together? And so your homework, and at this point, is to align yourself. So this is an evaluation for you. Is to get a metronome, or you could use a beat of any kind. I'm going to slow this down to 90. And what you're going to do is I would make a video of yourself or some recording. Now you could try to play along with the metronome, or just move to it. All right. And then either make a recording, like a video or an audio recording, or get a friend to check and see if you're staying with the beat. All right. This is what it sounds like when we play with the beat. All right. Now, this is what it sounds like when we're not playing with the beat. Right? I'm exaggerating a little bit, But believe it or not, you guys, not everyone, big surprise, right? Not everyone has a solid sense of the pulse and is able to align with the pulse and maintain the pulse or match a pulse. So this is an important skill, and I don't want to just gloss over it and get into like, oh, play this and play that and play this, because if you're not able, and what I mean is if you're not able right now at this point to match a tempo and then stay in that tempo, for example, if this, I start this and then I take it away, can I go back? Can I rejoin it? So another test that you could do is, I'm putting myself on the spot right now, is get a metronome and then turn the volume down. And then turn it back up and see if you're with it. All right? That's fun. That's a reality check right there. So so test yourself, and it's not to, so you can feel good about yourself or you can feel bad about yourself. It's not about that. It's about you getting a good idea of where you are right now. And that will tell you what you want to work on. So if you're not aligning with the beat, or you can't really match the beat really well, or you're drifting, early, you're getting there early or you're getting there late or whatever, nothing to be ashamed of. We all need to practice rhythm, all right? We all need to practice our ability to align with the pulse. So the good news is I already have some videos that are designed just to do exactly that, which I will leave linked for patrons on the Patreon side. If you're watching this free on YouTube, you can search for them. I will also leave some specific exercises for patrons on the Patreon side. So I'll link that below. And I am going to supplement this for patrons because they're patrons and they pay me to do that. But you're welcome to watch all these for free on YouTube with ads, of course. But just so you know, if you want to up it and get a little more resources and things, you have that option, all right? But what you're going to do is get evaluated, either self-evaluate with a video or audio recording, or get a friend to kind of watch you and listen to you. It has to be somebody who can tell if you're on the beat, all right? But I really recommend that you do that. And again, don't beat yourself up if you're not on time. If you're not, it's not that easy, you guys. Drumming is achievable, but it's not an automatic thing where everybody can do it 100% all the time, right? It's not. We all have to work on our rhythm and timing and practice. So the first thing, before we get into layering, I'm giving you guys a lot of stuff in this course, but I don't want to just start piling stuff on until you feel comfortable with your ability to hold a beat, right? Pretty well. It doesn't have to be, 100% accurate all the time, but pretty well. So do that. If you're not doing it well, if you're like, kind of low accuracy, then what I recommend is do something like a rhythm walk. Take a metronome, put it in your pocket so you can hear it, put it in an earbud, whatever, so it's audible, and then just walk and use what we call gross motor movements, stepping, swinging your arms. You could even maybe sit and just sort of pat your legs and see if you can just feel it in your body. And when you do this, I want you to relax, all right? If you're rushing, if you get to the beat early, it might help you to, like, let's say you're trying to do 90 beats a minute, but you're sort of like ahead of the beat. What you can do is try to use more space, right? Take up more room. That's going to slow you down. What's kind of difficult is just to do like a short movement, right? Because I have to start and stop. But if I make it into like a cycle, boom, boom, takes up space, it might help, all right? And then the opposite, if you're getting to the beat late, then try to shorten the distance to where the movement is comfortable, all right? And that goes for something like this, like clapping or stepping or whatever you're doing. You can just march in place and work on that and get feedback and make little corrections. So you do need to pay attention. It's not a mindless thing. It is a very mindful rhythm exercise. All right, so walking, clapping, patting, whatever it is, just swaying back and forth to a fixed tempo. All right, and then try that at different tempi. And then yeah, work on it and track that and see if you can improve. All right, you guys. Now, in lesson number 2, we're going to go on and we're going to look at how to subdivide the beats, and we're going to get into what is meter or a time signature. All right, so stay tuned. In the meantime, do your homework, and I'll see you in the next lesson. All right.